How often are you wrong about your call-outs? Where you've said someone's not natty, but it turned out you were wrong?
I've done 3 videos in my lifetime and probably done 100 posts of natty or nots where I said, oh, I was actually wrong. So I'd say almost always I'm right, but I definitely have made errors.
Do you ever feel bad about calling someone not natty when they are?
That's why I make the videos. Like I had
but
Lex Little, I did that on. There was another power lifter. And I'm like, do I feel bad? Yes, of course.
What about, do you have any remorse or feel bad calling people out who might not want to be called out? Or maybe they're just like, oh, shit.
Like they don't want to attract any attention to themselves or something like that.
That's a good question. And I can empathize with why they don't want to do it. So for example, sometimes I'll say, well, why do you think they're not admitting it? Like The Rock doesn't say he's on steroids, but we all know he is. And like, why doesn't he do that? Well, I don't know if he would have the same acting career. And I think that they justified in themselves that if he were to say he's on steroids, same as like Michael Hearn, if they come out and admit that they're on steroids, I think that they've justified it in themselves that, well, this would be worse. Because then if everyone in the world knows The Rock's on steroids, maybe he thinks other people would use steroids. But I think it would do the opposite. I think if people said, wow, The Rock's on steroids, this guy's on steroids, Chris Hemsworth, or any of these guys, like famous guys came out and said they're steroids, people's bar would be lower. Because if I'm a 20-year-old, like, and I'm growing up and I'm watching Hulk Hogan and all these guys on steroids and I'm thinking, yeah, I want to look like that, they would never use steroids. But if we knew that all these celebrities, actors and so on were on steroids, people would say, oh, that physique isn't a normal physique to achieve natural. So I think that we need a paradigm shift in thinking where people actually come out and admit it. The Rock says, you know what, guys? I actually been taking tests, I've been taking tren, I've been taking peptides, and I have body dysmorphia. I can't handle not looking good. I need this. And then people who, worship The Rock will be like, wow, I didn't know that. I didn't know men felt this way, that they felt the need to have that much muscle. Because imagine the pressures. It's completely changed in the last 30 years. Before, it was just mostly women. When I was a kid growing up, I didn't feel pressure I had to look a certain way. But look at social media now. It's like there's the same amount of pressure on a male to look good as a woman, and almost worse. Women, they need breast implants and whatnot, but they don't have to put on muscle. Men, they need a drug to look the way that women want them to look.
Do you think that virtually all A-list actors that get shredded for a certain job take some sort of performance-enhancing drug? Like, what about like Tom Holland, for example? If you know who Tom Holland is, he got jacked for Spider-Man. You think he's on something?
Tom Holland, I would have to, like, honestly, I know he is, but I didn't see a crazy transformation that he made. Like, I don't remember it. I'd have to see it. But I would say it's 50-50 that, for example, he would have, and I would say 50-50 that almost any Hollywood actor that has any kind of importance on looking at all aesthetic, at all, even slightly, remotely, that would be benefited by that, would be tempted to take something for sure. I would say at least 50%.
Who is the biggest fraud that you exposed?
I mean, who's a bigger fraud? Is it Michael Hearn or is it The Rock? Is it the guy that plays Thor? Is it a famous? And how do we decide who's the biggest fraud? Is it Dalen Bailey? Is it a female? Is it a male? Like, I don't know how we quantify who is a bigger fraud. Somebody that lies about it every day or somebody who has the most followers? Like, I would say
lies about it every single day through their teeth.
Oh, the Michael Hearn is the most notoriously famous person that is exceptionally obviously lying that's on steroids. I think that he's justified in his head that he can't just admit it. I almost think that he's like convinced himself because there's no way he's natural. I would bet my life against $1 that he's not natural. There's no way he's natural. But I think that he's in his 50s and it's like, what's the point? It's a joke. It's like part of me now. I think maybe he's justified and said, well, if I come out and say that I'm a fake natty for all these years, that well, maybe kids will think that they should use steroids, so I'm going to lie for their benefit. Like, I think people justify, like, no one wants to lie. When you ask somebody a question straight up to their face, like, when I talk to people face on, like I'm talking to you, let's say you're on steroids. Are you on steroids? They'll kind of like, well, what makes you think? My friend, they don't want to say no. Like, if you say, Greg, are you on steroids? I say, yes, I'm on 140 milligrams. I can look at you in the eye and say it. But when people are lying, they tend to not want to lie. So I can tell oftentimes by body language when I meet somebody in person, I'm like, you've been saying you've been natural or not, and I look at them in the eyes and I just ask them, and 9 out of 10 times you can tell. It's like we were talking about the Shin Dim show. Shin Lim and the opening act, and he had people in the audience, and one of the parts of the act was he said, you're going to draw a picture, and I'm going to predict which 3 people drew those pictures. I was from behind, and I looked, and I said, her, first picture, her, and I got it right 3 in a row, did I not? And it was like, you can tell by how people act. People don't want to lie, and so people that are lying about being natural, you can kind of tell in the way they answer the questions. And so sometimes I'll just look at how they respond or how they'll answer a question in a video, and I'll be like, that's a liar, I can tell.
If you could have confirmation on one influencer, whether they're taking something or they're not, who would it be?
Confirmation. I mean, the ones that I need confirmation, I don't need it. Like, I would want Mike O'Hearn to come out and say that he's not natural. In the fitness industry, he's the most famous one, the most enjoyable to say, here's proof. But I don't need proof. I would bet my life against all of ours in this room. We're all going to die if he's not. I know he would fail. And Mike and The Rock, 100%, I know for certain. I would swear on the Bible. I would bet I would bet my family's. There's no way this guy's natural. And so but I would love to have the proof. Then I could say here, because then people would know. And I think The Rock would make the biggest difference in Hollywood because he has 500 million followers. That would be a huge difference. And Mike O'Hearn in the fitness industry, I think that would make the biggest difference.
But before we get into that, men, real talk for a second, we are all afraid of losing our hair. And whether that's a receding hairline, thinning at the crown, or just thinning in general, the fear is there. But fortunately, there is a solution, and that would be our sponsor, Hims Hair Loss Solutions, where you could join hundreds of thousands of subscribers who got their flow back.
Hims offers a 100% online process that provides access to a range of hair loss treatments that work, all from the comfort of your couch, making treating hair loss simple with doctor-trusted treatment options and clinically proven ingredients like finasteride and minoxidil that can regrow hair in as little as 3 to 6 months.
And if swallowing pills is a challenge for you, no problem at all, because Hims also has a serum, spray, and chewable options.
The process is simple and it's 100% online. Just answer a few questions and a medical provider will determine if treatment is right for you. If prescribed, your treatment will be sent directly to your door.
So guys, start your absolutely free online visit today at hims.com/ICH.
That's HIMS.com/ICH for your personalized hair loss treatment options, or you could click the link down below in the description. HIMS.com/ICH.
Results vary. Based on studies of topical and oral minoxidil, prescription products require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if a prescription is appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for full details and important safety information. Thank you to Hims for sponsoring this episode, and back to the podcast.